Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan and welcome once again to the vast and ominous comic book vault. It's time for new acquisitions, and this week is a smaller week for me. I have just 8 books. At the end of the show, though, we are going to have Books Captain Logan Doesn't Read with Superhero Enthusiast, and he'll round it out for us and give us a few more books to talk about and for you folks to get to hear about. This week, there's going to be actually one book that I did read, but I won't be reviewing. That is Superior Spider-Man number 27 Point Now. That will be reviewed by Superhero Enthusiast at the end of the show. He didn't have as many things to review this week, and so I looked at his pull list and gave him one that I was reading anyway. So anyway, that's you will see that reviewed this week, but not by me. And before we kick off everything, I wanted to mention this is in passing, kind of a random thing. My dad came over the other day, and he had visited a random dollar store somewhere, and these dollar stores very often still will have these little packs of 2 or 5 or 6 comics that are kind of grab bags, and a lot of it is from the 90s because there was so much mass producing going on at the time, too much printing, that there's still a ton of this stuff just lying around. Not only were there too many, but a lot of stuff that was never sold retail that's just still sitting around in warehouses, people trying to get rid of. We were in 2014, this is still going on. And so every now and again my dad will bring over some random things for my son Jason, and he comes over with this 2-pack, and in the 2-pack was a copy of Batman number 500, yet another copy of Batman 500. I probably have 3 or 4 of these. There were some different covers with that book, and also Weapon Zero from Image, which I've never read. Oh, and on the back of this, there's an ad for Comic Zone. You remember Comic Zone on the Sega Genesis? That is a really hard platformer. At some point, I'm gonna do a playthrough on that. That is a crazy game. Anyway, so Batman 500, and I was like, well, that'll be fun, I guess, for Jason. He can have his own copy. But then I opened it up, and we got in this. It was in shrink wrap, and in it was something that we did not have, which is this really big, tall Nightfall poster of Azrael in the Batman suit, and that's really cool. And here it is. It's up in my Batcave, kind of a new thing for the Batcave. So anyway, I want to show that off really quick because I'd never seen this poster, and I thought it was really cool. Anyway, now that I am finished geeking out about random things from the 90s, let's go ahead and jump into everything. Oh, first, as always, thanks to Elite Comics in Overland Park, Kansas for helping us out with the show. If you're ever in the Kansas City area, be sure to check out Elite Comics. And now it's time for X-Files Conspiracy Ghostbusters number 1. This came out a couple weeks ago, and I didn't manage to get my hands on it. It sold out too quick at the comic shop, and I forgot to put it on my pull list. So I didn't get it, ordered it, got a copy finally, and here it is. So X-Files Conspiracy is basically the lone gunman from X-Files going to a lot of other properties that IDW has right now, as if it's all in the same universe. Something I really like about this, now, I've not read the first, because I wasn't able to get my hands on this either. I'm still waiting for my copy to come in of Conspiracy number 1. So I don't know the setup with this, which probably hindered my enjoyment of this a little bit, quite frankly. But anyway, so as far as I can tell, this is not supposed to be like universes coming together. It seems like it all exists in the same universe, and the lone gunman just didn't we're not aware of the Ninja Turtles and the Ghostbusters and the Crow, and they're learning about these things, and there's like this case that's tying it all together. So it might be a interdimensional thing. I don't know yet because I haven't read Conspiracy. So if anybody knows, leave a comment, let me know. I'm a little bit in the dark right now, like I said, because I'm behind and I missed that first issue. So obviously I'm not qualified at all to review this. I didn't read the thing that set it up, but I did want to go ahead and mention it a little bit because I got it and I read it, and it's pretty fun. I gotta say, as far as this is a crossover event goes, though, I'm a little bit disappointed that we're not getting to see Mulder and Scully in some of these places. I think it would be kind of fun to see them have to interact with the Ghostbusters and to see them have to interact with the Ninja Turtles. I think they're doing Transformers too. But anyway, but we got the lone gunmen, and they're fun, and I like them, and it makes as much sense as anything that it's the lone gunman. And so they come into the firehouse, and they're trying to disprove that the Ghostbusters are anything but a hoax. And it's really fun watching them looking around the firehouse and finding this room of a lot of the stuff that the Ghostbusters have compiled on their missions. And they find Slimer in this big dome, and they think that it's just a hologram, and they don't believe that it's real, and that's all really fun. The banter between the lone gunman is really great. The banter between a lot of the Ghostbusters is really great. The problem is, for me, they're not really meshing that well. Like, I kind of thought the dynamic between these two teams might be kind of fun, but they still feel really separate to me for some reason. And I love Eric Burnham, but this felt a little bit dry for my taste. There's a few fun pieces of wit here and there, but for the most part, it's really just a lot of talking, and it's not like a really interesting story that's driven by dialogue. It's kind of just a field trip. They go and they visit the Ghostbusters, and they realize by the end that the Ghostbusters are not frauds, and that these ghosts really are around. But that's about all that's going on here. And I guess there's a little bit of figuring out the first a piece of the puzzle for the overarching thing, but I don't know. It feels a little bit too novel for me. I'd like to see more of a real story being told, as opposed to just the kind of fun gimmick of, and then they go here, and then they go here. If this all is set in the same universe, and it's not supposed to be interdimensional, like I said earlier, I find myself wondering how so many people believe in ghosts with the Ghostbusters that, clearly they're there. It's obvious. They're all over the place. And the lone gunmen are some of the last people to finally latch onto this and believe it. I mean, they're not like Scully. They're not exactly skeptics, right? They're conspiracy theorists, and their conspiracy theories are often right. So I'm not real sure that I'm buying that. But at the same time, like I said, there is a whole lot to like about this. It is really fun. The art is gorgeous. The art is by Salvador Navarro, and he does a fantastic job. I love this, and I'd like to see him doing some more Ghostbusters stuff. The only complaint I have about his art is that Venkman doesn't usually look like Venkman, and he looks a little bit too serious. And frankly, Burnham's writing him kind of serious in this. He doesn't make a lot of quips, and he looks kind of like just a generic action hero guy. I thought that was kind of strange. Anyway, so this was somewhat lackluster for me, but I think there's going to be another part to it, and that might be better. I guess part of the thing, too, was this read like a one-shot. It was like they leave at the end, and they go off to, find more pieces to their puzzle, which would lead them to the Crow and some of those other properties. And so maybe when they visit them again, like I said, I think there's supposed to be a second part of this. Maybe when they visit them again, that will be more fun, and there'll be a little bit of thicker plotting. I guess we'll see. Next up, X-Files Season 10, number 9. This, in a lot of ways, is my favorite issue of this series so far, mostly in that it's a one-and-done story, and I've been really waiting to see one of those done with this. It also doesn't seem to be connected to any other X-Files lore. It seems to be its own thing, finally. I could be wrong. It could be a sequel to something that I didn't see or don't remember. I'm not a huge X-Files fan. I'm a very casual X-Files fan. But anyway, this is not a big mythology story. This is Mulder and Scully coming upon a case and having to solve it. The end. And when you get to the end, it's sort of solved and it's sort of not, and it's that kind of creepy awkwardness where you know a little more than you did at the beginning, but then you kind of feel like you still don't know anything, and that's how a lot of the best X-Files stories were told. You've basically, in this one, you've got a guy who is being possessed by some kind of entity that uses bugs, and of course insects are always a big X-Files thing, and Mulder and Scully, of course, trying to figure out what exactly is going on with him, and it turns out by about the middle that he's not the mastermind like they think that he is, and there's a great deal more going on and somebody else at the heart of this. This has a really great creepy atmosphere. The voices that Harris has for Mulder and Scully are still really, really on. It has a really good sense of where it is in the continuity, so it keeps in mind everything it's done so far, but it's still a pretty good standalone story. And this one mostly is worth reading for the atmosphere and for the creepy factor. I really felt like more than any of the other ones so far that I was watching an X-Files episode while I was reading this, and that was really impressive. Don't want to say anything else about it. Like I said, good standalone story. If you haven't read any other X-Files issues, you might want to check this one out first, because it's pretty good standalone and you don't really have to know anything else to read it. If you just want that really, really nice, creepy atmosphere and you want to feel your skin crawl a little bit reading a comic book, I think this does a really good job of capturing that feel of the TV show. And next up, we've got Batman number 28, which is off the beaten path. This is, by the way, by Snyder, of course, and James Tynion IV and Dustin Nguyen. This is getting away from Zero Year and jumping us into Batman Eternal, and I guess they felt the need to do this in the Batman book so that people would check out Batman Eternal, because Snyder is spearheading that also, and so people, I'm sure that they figured that people would read this and then maybe they would try that out. It's intrusive. It has nothing to do at all with what's going on right now in Batman. Some people might be kind of irritated about that. Having said that, after I read it, I kind of enjoyed it. I thought it was interesting, and I might check out Batman Eternal. So it's doing its job in that way. I guess I kind of feel like, because of where we are in Zero Year right now, this was not the best place for this kind of an interlude, because the last issue ended on a big cliffhanger. I was really looking forward to seeing what happens next. So just as far as the sequence, yeah, that's kind of irritating. But let's go ahead and get into the thing just on standing on its own. This is, I said it has nothing to do with what's going on right now. However, it has everything to do with Snyder's run, and this is a set in the future of a Gotham that is in really bad shape. It's basically a police state, and Harper Row is finally working with Batman, but not quite as Robin, and I don't want to give away exactly what role she's playing. Well, I will say she's a sidekick. She's basically filling the Robin role, but I'll leave it to you to see what her new name is and all of that. But anyway, so this is Harper Row going on a mission up against a big boss who turns out to be Selina Kyle, and she's not Catwoman anymore, and she's very different in this. And it's really interesting that all of the supporting cast in this issue are women. I don't know why. I'm not sure if that was done on purpose or what, but it's interesting. I'm not sure what it's getting at, and if anything, maybe it's just all of the supporting characters in this happen to be women. The person that has replaced Alfred in the Batcave is a girl. We see her from behind in kind of silhouette, but we don't really see who she is. It's left up kind of as a mystery. I would assume is probably a new character, but I suppose we'll see. And then the big reveal at the end of it's an artifact plot, there's something everybody's after, and then at the end it turns out that it's a person, and it's really exciting to find out who that is. It's a character that I've been waiting to see in New 52 that finally, to my knowledge, we've not seen yet, and that person is here at the end, and that was kind of exciting. And I really liked the art in this. It was not what I'm used to with this book, because it's not Capullo, but it still has some of that sensibility. Faces are a little bit cartoony, but it's consistent, and I think the style is really good for the story that's being told here. This is it's very adventurous, but also kind of dark and gritty, because like I said, it's this kind of apocalyptic sort of Gotham. So anyway, I'm recommending this one. I really enjoyed this. I'm interested in Batman Eternal. I wasn't before. I wasn't real sure about it. Now I kind of want to know. So it's doing its job in that way, and I think Snyder, as always, is doing a really good job with his plotting. Gives his characters some interesting things to say, and keeps it unpredictable. Next up, this is Jason's pick this week. I decided to bring back the Jason pick finally. Jason this week wanted me to review Batman Lil Gotham number 11. If you've not read Batman Lil Gotham, this is an all-ages book that I think has a lot more for the adults than it does for kids. I think that's one of the things that was strange to me about the first one is this doesn't read like a kid's book to me. It reads like the way we were plotting comic books in like the late 70s, early 80s for not everything, of course. I'm not talking like Frank Miller Daredevil or anything, but just in general. One thing I really like about it is that the dialogue is not dumbed down at all. It would be very challenging for kids under the age of 12, 14, I think, 10, 12, I think, and it is very silly, the plotting, but a lot of but like Batman's kind of just Batman in this, and I think that's kind of cool. But the thing that I think is weird, where it's at odds with itself, is it has so many references to stuff that you've got to be my age or older to really get and appreciate. There's a lot of callbacks to things, and we're seeing this a lot right now with stuff that's not set in 52 continuity, because it's harder to do that kind of stuff in 52. And so in this, there's two stories in this. There's a story at the beginning of this with Azrael, and it's a zombie story. Well, it's with Azrael, and it's with Ra's al Ghul and Talia. It's basically they invite Damian and Batman out for a party, which is kind of fun, and they have to fight zombies, and Damian's really into zombies. Damian in this, by the way, is really fun. He's still kind of that 10-year-old brat that he always was when I didn't like him, but in this, it's a little bit more fun. He's a little bit easier to swallow because of the context of it being a little bit kiddier, but then there's Nightfall references, and then even in the second story there's Nightfall references, and there's references to other things in that one too, because it's a time travel thing. The second story is a Clock King story, which I loved. Of course, everybody knows how much I like the Clock King. He was really fun in this. He's Tippus Fugit, and he is trying to stop time, and he's trying to freeze time so that he's the only one that can move around in it, and take over and do whatever he wants to. And so, of course, Batman and Damian are trying to stop him, and they get help from elderly Bruce Wayne from the future, who is very reminiscent of the Batman Beyond version. And anyway, we get a bunch of other Batmans in that, including, again, the Nightfall Batman. There's so much Nightfall in this, but also Zebra Batman and stuff like that. A little kid might think that Zebra Batman is funny, but they're not going to know where it came from. This is, as we so often see with stories like this, a writer, this is Dustin Nguyen. I love Dustin Nguyen, by the way. I like kind of going to town with his favorite Silver and Golden Age stuff, and finding ways to bring it back and reintegrate it. That story read a lot to me like a Batman Brave and the Bold episode, and of the two, I thought it was really great. Anyway, this issue really kind of won me over on this series a little bit. Like I said, Juxtaposition I wasn't sure about before. This one I really enjoyed. I thought it was all kinds of fun. And Tippus Fugit, everything that comes out of his mouth is gold. He has all of these hilarious one-liners that are clock puns, and not just puns though. Just like everything he says is really witty. My favorite is he has this part where he says, "Even a broken clock is right twice a day." I was like, oh yeah, I never thought about that before. Yeah, that's great. Anyway, so yeah, I'm really recommending this. Like I said, I'm not sure how much little kids would enjoy it, but it's certainly appropriate for them. But I really think Batman fans that are a little older like me would dig this even more. All right, next up is Batgirl number 28. This is Gail Simone and Fernando Pesserin. This has a new bad guy called Silver, who thinks that everybody in the Bat family is a vampire, and that this is all a big conspiracy for vampires to take over Gotham City. It would be funny if it wasn't also dark and creepy. This guy, Silver, has this lady that follows him around that's kind of his Alfred, and she seems totally normal and stable while he's really out there, and that makes the whole thing even more unsettling. So somehow he's come to this conclusion that the Gotham Police Department is in cahoots with Batman in order to let these vampires run amok, which is totally outlandish. Meanwhile, there has been a kidnapping of this little girl that Batgirl is investigating, and she needs Nightfall's help, and so she's having to work with her greatest enemy. That's always a big, fun, interesting superhero trope, and she's having to work with her in order to try to find this little girl. When you get to the end, the subplots converge, and it gets really chilling, and that's always Gail Simone's big strength. I really enjoyed this. I thought this was an incredibly dense issue. There's a whole lot of story being told here, and like Batgirl having to juggle all of these different things coming off the heels of the Batgirl Wanted story arc. There's a lot of stuff in here about her still having a very uneasy alliance with her father, and how that's playing into the stuff going on in this particular plot. The Silver Guy is nuts, and I'm really interested to see where all that goes. It's fun to see a new villain, or at least if he's not new, he's not anybody I've ever seen before. All in all, really, really good stuff, and looking forward to seeing where all that goes. Let's jump over now to Marvel with all new X-Men number 23. This is part 3 of the Trial of Jean Grey. This is Brian Michael Bendis with Stuart Immonen on art, and this feels again as much like a Guardians of the Galaxy issue as it does an X-Men issue. I feel like the Guardians get almost more to do here than they did even in the last issue of their book with this. Even though this is the third part of only a 5-issue story called The Trial of Jean Grey, the trial itself has not started yet, and this is really stretched out. I'm really enjoying what's here. There's a lot of great dialogue. There's some fun stuff. There's some heavy stuff with Jean Grey. There's a lot of really interesting moralizing, kind of moral conundrum stuff about whether or not it's fair for Jean Grey to be blamed for the things that she's going to do since she hasn't done those things yet. It's all about identity. Is Jean Grey the same person before she gets the Phoenix as she is afterwards? Is there something like inherently within her character that makes her capable of a lot of things that she's done, or should she be seen as two different people? And of course, that's what all this stuff about the past X-Men having to deal with the present X-Men with their present counterparts has all been about. And all 5 of those characters are very vastly different people from who they are in the present day. Well, a really interesting twist on this whole idea is that Jean Grey actually now has all of the memories of the later, I almost said present day Jean Grey, but that's all in our past now, right? Of who she is later on. She doesn't understand all the images. She had this memory dump earlier on in this book, and she has all the memories now of the Jean Grey who became the Phoenix, but she, again, you can't compartmentalize them. It's all kind of one big data dump. So the thing is, if she came to separate out those images and be able to understand them, would she then be the same person? And so, all of that psychology and philosophy is really interesting. But I'm kind of waiting for the ball to get rolling on this. This is classic decompressed Bendis stuff. And not a ton of story being told yet. It's a lot of people sitting around talking about the situation. But I'm really excited to see. I don't know. I guess here's the issue. When I see an arc called The Trial of Somebody, we've had this with practically every major superhero there's ever been, right? We've had the trial of Captain America, we've had the trial of Venom, we've had the trial, everybody's had a trial. And I like to see these things played out as courtroom dramas. If you're going to say the trial of something, I kind of want to see all of these moral questions come out in the courtroom. And a lot of the things that are being talked about are really interesting, but I just want to see it in that setting because of, I guess just because of what it's called, but also we have this intergalactic board that has gone and gotten, that has had the Shi'ar go get Jean Grey, and they're putting all this together. So it is a government that's putting her on trial. We have to expect an actual trial here at some point, although I kind of imagine it'll just be a, we've already found you guilty kind of trial. But I don't know. I guess my disappointment so far is we're already 3 issues into this. We're only getting 5, and I want to see some courtroom drama. That's kind of where I'm at right now. Anyway, I enjoyed this a lot more, actually, than the previous Guardians issue, and I liked what some of the Guardians had to do in this. But, like I said, it's still a little bit slow for my taste. Next up, Thor God of Thunder, number 19 point now. This is by Jason Aaron and Asad Ribic, and we've basically got Thor working with a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent whose specialty is in marine life. She speaks whale, which is kind of fun, and she's trying to stop the new Roxxon Industries from taking advantage of the bad environmental issues in the world and making things worse just to turn a profit. He's trying. There's this bad guy who's the head of Roxxon now, who is trying to make it look like he's trying to help the environment and help people by melting big ice caps and giving them water, but in fact, it's pretty clear that he's taking advantage of global warming, and so the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent and Thor are working together to stop him. Thor finds a way to provide the water that this guy is trying to provide to people who need it, really fun, very Thorish way that I really liked. This thing gets really close to being too on the nose for me. I think that it is right now pushing the boundaries of being too preachy about environmental issues and stuff like that, without going so far that I don't care. I really like the characters involved. Jason Aaron always writes a great Thor. I really like this woman that he wants to date. I think it's kind of fun, by the way, to see Thor trying to date this human woman who's not sure if she's interested in him, and it's like, hey, it's Thor. But what's really cool is she doesn't like people who have too much power because she can't trust them, and where the issue really won me over on the political stuff, because just for my personal taste, I have a tough time sometimes with when books get too on about current political issues. The politics of the world of the book is its own thing, but when we're dealing too much with real-world politics, sometimes it just hits too close to home for me, but it's just I read fiction to get away from that stuff, to kind of escape from that stuff, and I'm more interested in human things, and so for me it's hard to get real wrapped up in that kind of stuff, because sometimes it's tough to tell. It's tough not to just look at it as the writer is making some kind of a statement about what's going on right now instead of letting the characters drive it. Luckily, Aaron is not doing that here, and so I'm totally able to get on board with it. The thing I thought was really interesting here, the human aspect that Aaron won me over with, is the the notion that gods and CEOs might not be that different. And I thought that was really fascinating. This CEO says that to Thor, and he does that classic, Aaron's doing that classic trope where the villain says, look, you and I are not so dissimilar, and maybe our motivations and what we want aren't that far removed. And the world needs heroes, but doesn't the world also need really rich CEOs to give them the things that they need? And he is coming off a little bit stereotypical, but I thought that idea was really interesting. So all in all, the issue won me over, and when you get to the end, it pops back into the future Thor stuff. Aaron has never gotten too far away from the past, present, and future Thors, and seeing how this stuff is impacting the future is going to be quite fascinating moving forward. So definitely recommending this one this week. And lastly, real quick, Spawn number 240. This is by Todd McFarlane and Simon Krasinski. I gotta tell you, I did not think we would see Simon Krasinski on 40 straight issues of Spawn, and I still really love his artwork, although it's starting to get a bit redundant for me, but I don't think that's Krasinski's fault. I think that's more of a just kind of dull story thing, because we still have a lot of artwork not really helping enough to push the story along, and it's, again, I don't think it's his fault. I think it's because it's not story-driven, it's dialogue-driven, and it's just McFarlane trying to figure out the mythology on the page. So there's not a lot of actual events that's driving this along, as it is just people talking and trying to hammer out what the point of everything is. And so what we learn here is that the costume has some kind of like piece of God or something God put there in it that is the reason that everybody's after it right now, and that's kind of the big reveal. A major character dies in this. I won't say who, and I don't know if it'll stick, but there you go. That's in there. There's a big separation between Jim Downing and the Spawn costume. There's a lot of talk about why Al Simmons chose Jim Downing. I have not read any of the stuff since issue 200 altogether, so maybe this is in here and I just forgot about it because it is pretty convoluted, but I guess I didn't realize that the idea was that Al Simmons picked Jim Downing. There's a lot of hinting that Al Simmons is eventually going to have to show back up, because there's a lot of talk in this that he sacrificed himself in 185 as opposed to committing suicide because he's a quitter and he wanted and he just gave up. There's so many things in Spawn that feels like an afterthought to me, but that's what McFarlane is implying with this issue, and that it was kind of part of a larger game. Okay, I mean, that's, you know, I've come to expect that kind of stuff, and frankly, I've come to expect to not understand what in the world is going on in this book, but there you go. There's a little more action than normal in this. I appreciated that. Simon Krasinski got to draw a bit more, and a bit more cool stuff, so that's nice. But as always, or as is often the case, there's not nearly enough going on here to warrant an entire issue, and I liked it better than last issue, but I'm still, still pretty much just buying this book because I collect Spawn. And now let's go on to Book of the Week. My favorite book for this week, I'm going to go with Batgirl number 28. I thought this was incredibly dense, and I was really impressed with just how much Gail Simone managed to get done in this issue. And also just Guy thinking that the Bat heroes are all vampires is crazy and nuts. And then cover of the week, nothing really just totally jumped out and grabbed me this week, so I guess I'm going to go with Batman number 28, just for having a bat lock on a jail cell, because I think that's cool looking. And now let's go on to books Captain Logan doesn't read with Superhero Enthusiast.
Hello, Geekvolutionaries. I am Alex, a superhero enthusiast, once again here to discuss books that Captain Logan doesn't read. My first pick this week actually isn't something that's technically new. It's a digital comic. It's from Monkey Brain. We're putting out some really great stuff, a lot of really diverse digital content, and I do believe it's digital only. But the good thing about Monkey Brain is their digital offerings are actually reasonably priced. The book that I want to discuss actually is Masks and Mobsters, which is sort of a golden age-ish pulp crime noir kind of a superhero sort of a story, but it's not really a story. It's every issue is sort of a vignette into this little world, and we see a different kind of aspect of it. There has been sort of a story going behind the scenes, but it's not kind of what you would call like a singular narrative. This book, this specific issue of this book, number 10, actually came out back in August, but I somehow missed it. This is a book that does update somewhat sporadically, but that's okay, because what we get when we get it is actually really, really fantastic. If you do like stuff that is very much in that kind of golden age vibe, if you really liked the Minutemen stuff from Watchmen and from before Watchmen. You'll really get a kick out of this because it's totally in that aesthetic. In this particular issue, basically what happened was the most famous of the pulp heroes in this universe has passed away, and some people who he used to train, who were sort of like, I guess, to him what the Outsiders are to Batman, go back to try and resurrect him. Because the interesting thing about this whole series is that it's never really told from the perspective of the superhero. It's always typically from the mob's perspective or somebody else. And that kind of gives it a different, I guess, flavor or approach. We never really get a good handle on a lot of who these superhero pulp Avenger characters are, and I kind of like that. I like that we have a little bit of distance from them. And this book really offers something special. The art is fantastic. The covers are always gorgeously designed. If you're into this kind of thing, I definitely recommend this book. Like I said, there are only 10 issues to get caught up on, and it updates sporadically, and it's really well priced at, I think, 99 cents. So definitely this would be, if you have a little bit, you have an extra dollar to throw around, this might be something worth adding to your pull list. And it's, of course, available from Monkey Brain's website itself and Comixology. I'm going to use this to jump into my other, I guess, digital first books from DC. The first one is Adventures of Superman, number 42, which did not provide the answer to life, the universe, and everything. This issue is just a very short standalone. Basically, Clark Kent has to babysit some children, and as these stories always go, they're really, really bratty, and of course, I'm sure immediately you're thinking, oh, I know how this story goes, and you're right. Basically, Atomic Skull attacks Star Labs, and he has to go be Superman, but he has to bring the kids with him and protect the kids, and it's not really that interesting or new or innovative. It's just kind of a thing that we've seen before a lot of times. That said, it's not terrible. There is just some silly stuff, like there's a he basically takes the kids and wraps them in his cape, and he's like, oh, they'll be protected because it's indestructible Kryptonian fabric. But it's fabric. That doesn't make sense. If I put like a cat in a Kevlar bag and drive over the bag with a car, the cat is still going to be dead despite the fact that it's bulletproof fabric. Like, it just doesn't work like that. The art in this is quite good. It's kind of cartoony, sort of in the, I guess, Chris Samney sort of a style. I quite like it. This doesn't have a whole lot of redeeming factors. It's just sort of a quick little silly Superman story. But if you're in the mood for, just kind of a simple, somewhat comedic thing like that, it's worth checking out. But, if you're into more, I guess, serious Superman stories, then you might want to give this one a pass. Atomic Skull does look totally awesome in this, though, so it might be worth it just for that, if you're a fan of that character, which I'm sure there's maybe like 2 people out there who are. The other DC Digital first book was Justice League Beyond 2.0, number 13. This book has been doing some really interesting stuff. Basically, to catch people up to speed, Brainiac has taken over the Earth. Like, quite literally, he is the Earth now. They've kind of taken his character, I guess, full circle back to what he was in the very first episode of Superman, the animated series, and that was kind of the computer system of the planet Krypton. And basically, the Justice League are fighting a losing war against him. He's doing really, really well because Brainiac is actually a brainiac in this. He's not stupid. Basically, the superheroes themselves were quite smart in that they decided to recruit all of the magic-using characters to fight against Brainiac's technology, because technology and magic, I guess, are opposites and work against each other. But basically, Brainiac has had the smarts to counteract that by employing Thanagarian nth metal, which is used to fight magic, which is something that they brought up in, I think, in the comics, but also specifically within the Justice League show. So it's like this writer actually gets what's going on in this universe and how things fit together, and I love that. Like the Kryptonian crystals in the Fortress of Solitude, basically Amethyst, who's now the Empress of Gemworld in the future, is controlling them to fight the Brainiac robot. So it's like, oh, they're putting all these things together, and it makes perfect sense. And I love when they do that. You know, even the magic characters that they recruited, they're like Clarion and Dr. Faust, or Felix Faust rather, and basically like they're villains, but they're helping because, you know, obviously if Brainiac takes over the world, they're kind of, you know, in a bad place too. But like I said, this war is kind of a losing war, and we see in this issue their attempts to, I guess, make a last stand don't really work out so well, so they have to make a final stand at a place that is very magical, and I won't reveal what it is. It's not Tahiti, but it is as nice as Tahiti, maybe even nicer. This book is definitely worth checking out if you like the DC animated universe, if you like futuristic Justice League stuff. Totally, you know, pick this one up. I'm going to jump over to Dark Horse before Marvel, actually, and discuss Star Wars number 14. This book has been really good. I am a pretty big Star Wars fan. My knowledge of the expanded universe is kind of Swiss cheese-like, I guess, and part of that is just because some of the expanded universe is really good, and some of it is really not good. This book, I'm pretty sure Dan was reviewing this before. Obviously, I'm sure people are aware this is set between New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, and Princess Leia has been largely the focus. This issue has been focusing mostly on Darth Vader and what he's sort of been doing. Basically, a big Imperial guy they found out was a mole, and he's basically been hunting down sort of who this guy is, and he finds out in this issue. And we get to see Darth Vader get really angry and do some things that are a little bit frightening. But this whole issue is told from the perspective of an ensign in the Imperial Navy. She's just a really low-ranked officer that Vader, I guess, handpicked to do this mission. And basically they recruit some stormtroopers as well, who are like the elite of the elite. And Vader's sort of doing this operation off books, and he doesn't really have the Emperor's permission, and we basically see him have to deal somewhat with the consequences of that in this issue, but the Emperor, I think, is reasonably lenient on him. But basically, the big thing is the Stormtroopers have their own orders, and they kind of come to heads with Darth Vader, and we see why this guy is, you know, the big bad in the Star Wars universe. We sort of, you know, we have this, I guess, sense of him that was, you know, like that from the original trilogy, but then kind of spoiled by how Anakin Skywalker was portrayed in the prequels, and this kind of brings back the terrifying. This guy's scary, and when he gets angry, you know, look the frack out. I think it definitely helps that it's told from the perspective of that low-ranking Imperial ensign, and that she herself is terrified of Darth Vader, and that kind of bleeds through into the way that the story is told. And I think this is probably the last that we'll see of her, since she does say, like, at the end of this that she never saw Vader again. But, you know, mission kind of went, I guess, according to plan. You'll see what happens if you pick up the issue, but yeah, it's just really well done. I'm kind of interested to see where this goes because, you know, obviously, well, I guess the big thing is that Star Wars comics are going to be moving over to Marvel. Whether or not they'll bring Brian Wood with them, I don't know. I hope so. But also, you know, there is a limited amount of time between movies. So the Rebels have got to establish their base on Hoth at some point and get to the point where that Imperial probe droid lands on the planet at the beginning of Empire. But this book is really good. If you are a Star Wars fan, definitely pick this up. This is in that category of better things in the expanded universe, so definitely check it out. Arguably my favorite book this week, though, was my Marvel book, Superior Spider-Man number 27. Now, I've always kind of felt a little out of my depth in discussing Spider-Man, and that I'm mostly familiar with him from expanded media. I mean, I have a sense of what's gone on in the comics over the years, but I'm not too well read, which is something I'm hoping to change. If people want to recommend really awesome Spider-Man runs to me in the comments, that'd be great. But I decided to jump on with this book since it is kind of a whole just different thing in itself, and I've really enjoyed kind of how it's gone along and how you know, that typical thing that Peter Parker goes through, where he decides to, you know, make his life better, and things go well for a while, and then they all kind of fall apart, and, you know, it's kind of the downside of the roller coaster. How that has applied to Otto Octavius as Peter Parker as well. And, you know, when he took on the persona of Spider-Man, he didn't realize that, you know, kind of like with great power comes great responsibility. You know, with being Peter Parker comes the Parker luck. And issue 27, you know, finds Otto at a place where he thought things were going really well, and he's, you know, that downward spiral has kind of solidified itself, and, you know, he's heading down. Things are falling apart for the supposed superior Spider-Man. He's done what he set out to do, but he didn't realize that he was looking for the wrong goblin. And this is the beginning of the Goblin Nation story. There is quite an interesting confrontation in this, though. That's kind of I guess, the focus of it. Otto's trying to figure out why he didn't notice this, and obviously the thing that we learned a long time ago was the facial recognition software in his spider bots that he has everywhere in the city don't recognize the goblin. So he finds that out, he tracks down Green Goblin, and they have a little bit of a confrontation, and Green Goblin knows something quite important, and I'm really interested to see where this goes. Obviously in the background we learned recently that Peter Parker is still, you know, he wasn't fully deleted, he's still alive in there somewhere, and we see a little bit of him trying to, you know, piece things together so he can take over again, you know, reclaim his body. And it's always really creepy when you see the inside Otto's head thing, but it's really, really fun. And you know, I'm definitely looking forward to where this goes. Like I said, possibly my favorite part of this issue, although, you know, I liked some of the paneling stuff in this, and a lot of the color work in this is gorgeous. But my favorite part was, weirdly enough, just the advertisement for next issue, where it says, "Next, the Green Goblin is back, and he's playing chess," or maybe it's a metaphor of some sort. I just thought that was hilarious, because I kind of feel like chess is perhaps an overused metaphor in superhero comics, in like the battle between you know, superhero and supervillain. They're playing a chess game, ooh. But chess as a game, you know, is a war of attrition, really, compared to like a game like Go, which is all about, you know, every offensive move also has to be a defensive move, and vice versa. I know I would like to see a Go metaphor sometime, but, you know, my point being, just chess isn't always applicable. But I guess we'll see with Goblin Nation going forward. I'm really enjoying this book. You know, if you have been following on with Superior Spider-Man, keep reading. We're getting towards the end of it. It would be silly to give this up now. I don't know really if this would be the best point to jump on. If you haven't been reading it, it might be okay. I mean, if you just know the general background of, you know, what's been kind of going on, this might actually not be too bad of a place to pick it up. But I really like this book. It's weird, it's wacky, it's sci-fi. You see things pay off in this. There's a certain technology that Otto uses to his advantage that somebody used against him earlier, which is really fun to see. So definitely check this book out. Superior Spider-Man is, I don't know if it's superior, but it's very, very good. That does it for me for this week. I considered picking up She-Hulk #1, and didn't, and now I'm hearing really good things, so you might see me cover that in the future if Cap doesn't, because I really like the art in it, and it's written by, I think, Charles Soule, who's doing Swamp Thing right now, and if you'll remember from last week, I really enjoy what he's been doing there. So I guess that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed this. I am, again, Alex, a superhero enthusiast, and back to you, Cap.
Thanks a lot, enthusiast. I'll see you next week. And everybody, thanks as always for watching the Comic Book Vault. If you're ever in the Kansas City area, be sure to check out Elite Comics in Overland Park, Kansas. They are my favorite store. They help us out a lot with the show. We sure appreciate them. And if there's ever anything you want to send to see me review on the Vault, you can send things to our P.O. Box. That's Geekvolution, P.O. Box 14183, Lenexa, Kansas 66285. And in the meantime, I'll see you next week. I'm Captain Logan. Happy reading.